hello to all the students in the chat here on YouTube, at least that's the one we have here. And hello to all of our members, which I'll talk more about the memberships here at the end. But of course, we want to get right on into the lesson. So let me know if there are any issues with the sound and or, I know somebody told me to stop bumping the microphone, but that will never happen. Okay, it looks like we're good. I'm doing well, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well also. All right, here we go. I'm going to do like an intro, and then we're going to get right on to it. So, what up, piano students? It's your piano teacher, Tim, here, and today I'm going to teach you about how to write cool chord patterns on the piano. Let me try that again. Hello, students. Today, your piano teacher, Tim, here, and I'm going to teach you how to invent cool chord patterns on the piano. So to do this, we're going to break it down into knowing what the rules are, bending the rules, and breaking the rules. Let's get on to what the rules are. Hello, everybody. Glad to have you. Let me get a sip here, and then we'll get right into it. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. Okay, here we go. Make sure the volume's good. Okay, the rules. So to explain what the rules are, which is basically the music theory behind chord progressions, we have to talk a little bit about some basic theory. If you know this stuff, you can move a little bit ahead in the lesson. But if not, I got to show you from the ground up. So on the piano, there are these things called keys, right? But I'm not actually talking about that type of key. I'm talking about another term, which basically means all of the notes that exist throughout a song, passage, or piece of music. And a key generally has a certain number of sharps or a certain number of flats, but usually not both. So let's say we have the key of C major. By definition, the key of C major has 0 sharps, 0 flats. And if I was to play all the notes in that key from the starting note back to that note again, and all the key notes in between, that is what we call the major scale, or a scale. So a scale is when you put all the notes in a key, all in a row from beginning to end. A lot of the examples we're going to be talking about today are just going to be in the key of C, because I'm going to assume that a lot of you don't know about all the other different key signatures. That would be a different lesson all on itself, and visualizing things in the key of C actually makes things a lot easier because we don't have any sharps or flats to deal with. Or do we? We will, but you'll see what I mean later on. So building off the idea of keys, we have these things called chords, which is when you play 3 or more notes at the same time. When you have a 3-note chord, that's what we call a triad. Now, you have all your scale notes, right, in the key of C. You can build a chord on each of those scale notes to have a total of 7. Here's the first chord, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And they are labeled as such, 1 through 7, as to what chord they're talking about. So when you're talking about chord progressions, you're going to be talking about in terms of 4, 5, 1, 6, 2. Like it's a progression moving around those different numbers I was talking about. Where do those numbers come from? They come from the scale, baby. All right, let's get on to the next point I was going to make. Hello, everybody. Hopefully everybody's doing great. Okay, I want to teach you now about the most common chord progression or common chord pattern in music. And this is basically the pattern that we are going to base literally everything else in this lesson off of. And I'll show you what I mean. Now, the crazy thing is that chord progressions are written in Roman numerals. Wait, I'm going to draw this lower. Sorry. So I'm drawing out the most common chord progression in music, and if you know your Roman numerals and you can read past my really sloppy handwriting, you would know that this says 1, 4, 5, 1. This is our chord progression. In fact, it's the most common chord progression in all of music. So how do we apply this to, say, the key of C? Well, remember, we had our first note of the scale, and if we built a chord on that, that would be our first chord. Well, guess what? We did it. That's the chord we have. The next chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, is built off the fourth note of the scale. So in this case, it's F major. Fifth is just one note up from there. And then usually we go back to 1. Now, what I want to tell you is that the first chord is called the tonic. The fourth chord is called the subdominant, which makes sense because it leads into the fifth chord, which is called the dominant. And then it goes back to the tonic. And a lot of chord progressions have some sort of tonic, subdominant, dominant kind of structure. And the reason behind that is it naturally pulls you along throughout the music. So you're going to be seeing that a lot. Let's continue. Okay, 1, 4, 5, 1. Those are basically our rules that we're going to base everything off of, along with what keys are, yada da da da. And there's actually a little bit more to this knowing the rules part, right? Now the cool thing is that you can use this progression on any key and any key signature. However, you have to kind of know what that key is. Again, that's a different lesson, but I do have lessons all around the channel for that. So like you could obviously do a 1, 4, 5, 1 in the key of G, or any key that you want. It's still based off of those different numbers of the scale. It's just that you're using that different scale. But like I said, we're going to stick to the key of C. Now here's the thing. We're going to extend the rules a little bit. I didn't even mention this in the beginning. So I'm going to tell you about the rule of substitutions, and this is following the rule still. You can substitute any of these chords, the 1, 4, 5, 1, with any other chord, so long as they have 2 notes in common, or we call common tones. So say we have our 1, 4, 5, 1 progression, but let's say that we want to figure out a substitution for this 4 chord, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. So you go here, here's our 1 chord, here's our 4 chord. Now we're going to substitute it with something. And what was the rule I said? So whatever chord you're substituting it with has to have 2 notes in common, right? So one way to do that is pretty easy. You just keep these 2 notes where they are, and then you just add a note at the bottom, and that'll automatically make sure that you have 2 common tones. You can also do it the other way. You can move up with these 2 and then play like an A minor chord. So you can either do a D minor or an A minor in replace of that F major. D minor is actually the more common replacement, but you can see either or. So now when I'm going through this chord list, I'm going to have like a path like this, right? So you got 1, play it along at the piano if you got a piano in front of you. You got 1 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord, back to the 1 chord. Now, I have a question for you. Why would you use the 2 chord instead of a 4 chord? Well, it has to do with whether it has to do with the fact you may have also noticed that I wrote the 2 undercase and all the others are capital. So the reason you would use 2 over 4 is that 2 is a minor chord, so it has a sadder sound, whereas 4 is a major chord. It has a bright and happy sound. So that's when you would, if you were writing a piece and you were like, okay, I want it to go happy, sad, back to happy, kind of like an overall melancholy kind of thing, a little bit all over the place. That's how you would do it. So that's the rule of substitutions. You can substitute any of these chords for another chord as long as they have 2 notes in common. And one of the common, I'll just give you the substitution for 5 there. You can substitute 5 for 7, but you can also substitute 5 for 3. 3 generally isn't used a lot in songs. I mean, for more modern music, you're going to see it, especially when we start to break the rules a little bit. But the reason 3 isn't used as a good replacement for 5 is because 3, it kind of muddies the waters, because not only is it a minor chord, but it's halfway between C, the tonic, and G, the dominant. So it kind of just blurs the lines a little bit more. You can see 3 in music, but you're not going to see it as often. You're going to see this type of thing. So I would actually write this down, this chord diagram I have here. And when you start to play around with these chords, pick a path in the diagram. You can go all the way straight across. You can go like this. You can go like this. You know what I mean? So long as you have a path going from left to right, you are all good. So using this very basic knowledge, let me noodle around on the piano. By the way, this is how you get really good at this. You noodle around on the piano. So let's just kind of like make them into quarter note chords, make it easy for us. And I want you at home over the next week or so is to just practice going through different patterns from left to right on the diagram. And that's like the most basic form of coming up with chords, using the rules, right? I'm going to tell you how to break the rules a little bit. So I'm going to tell you how to add chords. There's a lot of ways to do that. One is via secondary dominance. So a secondary dominant is a dominant of a dominant. So remember, dominant was the 5th note in the chord, and a secondary dominant would be 5 above that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a secondary dominant, a dominant of the dominant, and then you build a chord on that. Now the thing is that a lot of times the especially like the 5 of 5 secondary dominant, so you got G moving to D, you got to be careful because it's always going to be a major chord when you're doing the 5 of 5. There's other secondary dominants and secondary leading tones and things like that. But let me show you where this fits in, because you're probably like, Tim, what? So a secondary dominant is like a chord you can fit in. We're going to draw another diagram. This is like the alt diagram. This is like the edgy, cool diagram. Ready? All right, let's kind of do this. So we're going to do 1. We're going to do 4 again, just to make it easy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find a chord to fit between the 4 and the 5. And the secondary dominant is the way to go. And then I'll show you a cheat on how to figure out the secondary dominant instantly. Actually, it looks like it says TV, doesn't it? Especially that way. Okay, so 1, 4. And then we're going to add a chord, which is our X chord in between. Now, this is a secondary dominant. So I said that 5 was our dominant. And then the dominant of that, and I even told you that there's an F sharp in that, is that D major. Now, you could write this 2 ways. You could write it 5. This is the appropriate way to write it, 5 of 5. Or if you want to take a shortcut, you can just use a major 2 chord. Now, you got to be careful, because when you're in C major or any major key and you play the 2 chord, it's going to be minor, just the way the key signatures are set up. So you have to sharp that middle note, and that will give you your secondary dominant right away. So 5 of 5, or 5 5. So you can just use the major 2 there. So let's see what the chord progression we have so far. So here's 1. I'm just going to do it with one hand, make it easy. 4. And then this 5 of 5. And 5 of 5 goes to 5, 1. So here's our pattern without me talking all over it. So see how that had a very rock progression? This, even though this 2 chord doesn't actually belong in the key of C, because of that F sharp. That's why we're breaking the rules right now. Even though that chord doesn't belong, because it leads back to the 5 like a familiar chord, it works out. So what ends up happening when you add in a note that does not belong in a key, it adds some tension. Hear that? But then when you go back into the key, it kind of resolves it. So once you get good at chord progressions, you're going to start thinking about them in terms of like tension and release. So let's continue here. This is the most diagrammy lesson I've done in a while. So it would go to 5. Remember that 5 of 5 always has to go to 5, unless you're, right now we're bending the rules. If you were breaking the rules, you could do something different, but we're only bending the rules right now with this 5 of 5 stuff. Okay, so you could use your chord diagram like this. You could go all the way across, you know what I mean? You could substitute this for 2, you know what I mean, and go across that way. So always be drawing your chord diagrams, especially in the beginning. It will help so much with like logically figuring out where you are and where you're going. Even if you've been doing chord progressions for a while, it is really good in terms of like inventing new ones, I guess you could say. I think it's hard to invent a new chord progression, but you know what I mean. You're doodling around, you're inventing on your own. So draw your chord diagrams, draw your 1, 4, 5 mostly, and then know what the substitutions are, or at least the most common ones, the 2 and the 7 for 4 and 5. And then start playing around with your secondary dominants. And that's where you want to head for the next part of our lesson, because there is more. Now, there's one other type of secondary chord that I want to tell you about, and it's the secondary leading tone chord. So what you do is it's another way of adding in a chord into your progression. So let's just say we have 1, 4, 5, 1. Gee, where did I get that? Most common chord progression in all of music, of course. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a chord. This time I'm going to add a chord right here between those two. I'm not going to substitute any of them out. So the 1, 4, 5, 1 is going to stay. However, we're going to pick a different chord for right here. And we're not going to use a secondary dominant, although we could. Well, that would go right here. Anyway. So we got to figure out, how do we fit in a chord between the 1 and the 4? Well, there is this thing called a secondary leading tone chord, which basically you take the leading tone. You don't know, actually you don't even know what leading tone is. Okay, so a leading tone refers to the 7th note of the scale, right? But the crazy thing about it is when you're talking about secondary leading tones, you're thinking about in terms of a different scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 1 chord, and then we're going to go to 4. And then if you know your F major scale, you know that your leading tone chord is going to be an E diminished chord. So it's going to go C, E diminished, F, G, C. Now you're probably thinking, Tim, what did you just say? With the secondary leadings, tones, secondary dominants, it's easy to get all this stuff mixed up. So like with the secondary dominant, remember when I told you could just use the shortcut of a uppercase 2 or a major 2 chord? Well, you can do the same thing here. What I would do is whatever chord you're trying to fit in between, so we're going to the F chord, that's your chord of reference. So say we have this, and then what you want to do is you want to move 1/2 step below that note that you're looking at. So you're looking at the F major chord, you go 1/2 step below, and you form a diminished chord right there. And then you lead into that 4 chord. So 1 chord, and then this is a diminished, I guess you could say it's a diminished 3 chord, which would look like this. So wait. This is the appropriate way to write the chord that I'm talking about. But this is the cheater way, where it's, hold on, this is the cheating way. It's actually a 3 diminished chord. Diminished is like another version of major, minor, it has more of a bite to it. The notes are closer together. And if you want to learn how to form a diminished chord on any note, what you do is you play that note. Then the next note is 3 half steps up. 1, 2, 3. The next note is 3 half steps up from there to make a diminished chord. I know it's a lot to take in, but I have some lessons for you that I'm going to direct you to at the end that will help really solidify all this stuff to you, because I know the secondary dominants, secondary leading tones can be a lot. Okay, so here is our pattern so far. You got C, E diminished, F, 5, which was G, back to 1. See how that had a little bite to it, the secondary leading tone chords? So let me just play these as quarter notes. So that's how you would do it to add in that extra chord. So you can also add in, we could also add in a chord right here. And what's a good choice? Well, because we have the 5 chord here, which is our dominant, a good choice is the 5 of 5, which remember is major 2. So now what I'm going to do is, this is my path across. I'm going to go here, 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 here. Really easy to follow, right? So anyway, you got C, and then E diminished, F, D, G, C. Now let me try like a little improv, and I'll show you how this is kind of, well, here's the 1, 4, 5, right? See how plain that is? But now we have some other chords to play with. So I'm going to improvise a little bit, show you like kind of how you might use something like this. So just a little improv, you know, you can make up a little melody in the right hand, the chords in the left hand. But can you see how just by adding those few chords, as complicated as some of these new concepts may be, you can see how adding some chords in it definitely adds some flavor. But that's not all. We've only gone through the rules and bending the rules. Now we got to talk about breaking the rules, which is the real fun part. Yo, what up everybody? How's everybody doing? Symbol to represent diminished chord, yeah, is this like little circle. It looks kind of weird. I will be 3 too much, can lose sense of tonic. Yeah, exactly. All right, I'll answer any questions here at the end, but I'm not finished quite yet. Okay, now for the exciting part, we're going to talk about how to actually just break these rolls into oblivion. And we're going to do that by using what I call the sloppy, like the sloppy, she sounds like we're getting lewd here, but sloppy replacement, or I call this the sloppy substitution. That's what we're calling it, okay? And what that means is that we're substituting, but we're not quite using as strict rules as we were before. So let's take a look here. So remember I said that you can replace any chord with another chord so long as they have 2 notes in common, right? But what we're going to do now is, let's just say we have a 1, 4, 5, and we're going to replace them with something fun. And I recommend, especially in the beginning, like I said, draw all your chord diagrams and always start with 1, 4, 5. That's really, if you stick to that basic thing and then build off of that, you really can't make a progression that just sounds flat out bad. You really can't. So that's why I recommend we do this. So here's the thing, is now we're going to substitute this 4 chord, but instead of 2, we're going to do something a little different. So what I want you to do is, I want you to imagine this 2 chord, which is D in the key of C, and I want you to flat the bottom and top notes, and that's our replacement chord. So instead of a D minor chord, we're doing a D flat major chord. And the way this is going to look on your chord diagram, this takes, if you're watching this and you like half get it, that's totally fine. Like I said, I'm going to give you some links here at the end that will kind of fill in the gaps for you guys, if you don't know all the theory. So we want to take, that would be a flat major 2 chord. It would look like this. All right, let's see how it sounds. Now that we're breaking the rules, we're going to find some things that sound kind of funny, but also things that have like a little bit more bite to it. So let's try it. So we're going to go to the 1 chord, then the flat 2. See how that just had a different type of bite to it? And like kind of a Spanish sound. So when you do this, once you start breaking the rules, you're going to be like, hey, this sounds like that type of music. That sounds like that type of music. But anyway, you can do that. And then let's say we're going to replace this 5 chord. Normally we would replace it with that diminished chord. But what we're going to do instead is we are going to take our, well, we could do the 5 of 5 there too, huh? All right, this is what we're going to do instead. Instead of a B, so normally it would look like this, which is 7 diminished, which happens to be a B diminished chord. We're just going to lower that bottom note. So really, we're taking our normal substitution. We're just flatting some of the notes, usually the bottom note or the top note. So that would be flat 7. Some of these chords are still a little bit weird to me going outside of the key. So anyway, this is our pattern. We're going to take this path. We're going to go here, 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 here. Okay, ready? Pretty interesting, huh? We really bent the rules, but it actually really fit well. So here's 1. That flat 2 chord. Flat 7. Back to that. It works really, really well, actually. I thought it would have a little bit more bite to that, but maybe because we used 2 borrowed chords at the same time. All right, yeah, so you can use, so the way to break the rules, whoa, what? There we go, maybe I was hitting the wrong thing. So, what do you think about what I'm doing? So the whole idea of breaking the rules is taking your substitutions and altering some of the notes. I recommend flatting the bottom and or top note. Could give you some really interesting things to play about with. But let's just continue a little bit further. I have more for you. There it is. Okay, so I want to talk about how to get good at this, right? How do you get good at this? What do you think? Write in the comments. I'll wait. You get good at this by practicing it all the time, by writing out the diagrams, practicing your theory, and then also just the most important part, putting your hands on the keys, right? And you can come up with some pretty interesting progressions. I'm just going to noodle around here for a few minutes and show you what I mean. So I'm just going to be playing strict chords at first. Maybe I'll add like a little rhythm to them, you know, make things a little bit interesting as well. Rhythm, adding rhythm would be a totally different lesson on its own. But here we go. I'm going to see what we can come up with. It may be great. It may be a disaster. But I'm going to try to use the rules, bend them, and break them the best I can. So here we go. Oh, I like this one. This one has a good build to it. So whenever you move chords, in what they call chromatic order that has a really good like building kind of quality to it. So you're going to come up with a lot of patterns on your way, like I said, that sound like a certain type of music. And what I recommend is when you figure those out, write those down in like a notebook. Be like, oh, this is the Spanish sound, this is like the building. Oh, I messed it up a little bit with that building sound. And write those as you go along. Let's just keep manoodling around and see what else I have to tell you. Ooh, love that. So what I did was I went to the tonic, I went to that sub-dominant, and then instead of the dominant, I just went to a sub-dominant. Okay, so I went from tonic to sub-dominant. No, tonic to secondary dominant to sub-dominant. It's so hard to say them in terms, but I went from 1 to major 2 to 4 back to 1. That had like a really cool build to it too, like almost like a victory lap. It's like, yeah, we're gonna come save the day. And things like that. So again, I just come up with these things playing around. I would write that one down, you know, like, oh, this is the victory lap song or whatever. And then as you mess around with these, you'll have all these tools in your toolbox, because guess what? A lot of these progressions you're going to come up with to be like, oh, that sounds like that type of music. And then you look up how that type of music works. Well, guess what? You're probably going to find that chord pattern in there. So I have a little bit more to tell you, so don't go away. So my courses over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com, can teach you a lot more about piano, theory, and anything else you need to be a well-rounded musician. Use code YouTube for 15% off any order of courses. Check it out over on pianolessonsontheweb.com. So let's get back to the lesson. All right, let me see, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, I want to do this. Okay, I mentioned in this lesson that there were a lot of things that I would link you to here at the end, like lessons and things, to catch you up on maybe some of this theory that you didn't know ahead of time. Like I said, dominance, secondary dominance, leading tone. What was I talking about? I recommend you highly recommend you check out this lesson next, which is how to write your own song. I talk about these chord progression things again, but also how to add in melodies. It's a really good review and way to kind of build on what we talked about today, so you can be doing full improvisations, writing full songs, and everything you need to know. I also have a whole collection of theory videos I'm going to put right here for you. And yeah, it's been your piano teacher Tim here, and I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I always do that little outro there at the end for my editor. And I still have things to talk about, though, guys. So just hold tight. I felt that lesson went pretty well. It was a lot of jargon kind of things. Hopefully you guys didn't get too lost. It seemed like Jeremy and some of the other people who attend a lot kind of got it, which is great. All right, I have more things to tell you, though. I want to talk about memberships for a second, because memberships are still new. I want to let people know. So we have a live stream tomorrow at the same time this one was, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And but here's the catch. It's for members only. So we have the memberships now open up on the channel. Let me see if I can get you guys a visual here, since I'm willing to bet there's even a lot of people on YouTube that don't even know what memberships are still, because YouTube is usually not the best at letting people know stuff. They're better. Okay, before I get into this, I want to say that I've been on YouTube for a while now, and people still complain about YouTube, and there is a lot to complain about, but it is leagues better, not only from where it was, but compared to other social medias, Zuckerberg and Facebook. Actually on Facebook right now. Anyway, streaming. Anyway, enough about Facebook and why I don't like it. Let's go here. They're better. Okay, before I get into this, I want to All right. Quiet me. We don't need to hear my my thing again. So what I want to do is I want to bring this up. Hold on, everybody. This is not good. Yeah, this is close enough. So if you scroll down, you're going to see like a blue join button here next to the other blue buttons that you probably don't have because it's my videos. And so what this is about is that this is channel memberships. If you click the join button, there will be 3 tiers of memberships: student tier, pupil tier, and master tier. You can read about each one and what's included in each one. The main thing you're going to be getting with the memberships, to make it easy to explain, is you're going to be getting additional live streams and additional content from me. The master tier, we'll start with that one first, gets an extra bonus. You get access to the master tier Discord, which is Discord's like a chat room type of thing, where people of certain, I don't know, like-mindedness can join together. But anyway, it's like a thing you can join. And what you get out of the Discord is you can send me recordings of your playing, and I will review them for you. You know, I do this during piano practice club. However, the 2 things about that is, 1, you're going to have to wait a month for me to get to your stuff to talk about it. And then 2, well, yeah, you're just going to have to really wait. and actually, the other thing is I might not get to your, that was the other point I wanted to make. I might not get to your submission if we have a lot of submissions that month. Or if there are duplicates. So the master tier Discord, you can submit questions to me, but most importantly your recordings, and I will get back to you within a day or 2 of what I think, how you might be able to improve, some questions I may have, and so forth. We only have 1 master tier subscriber so far, but let's get on to the other tiers. Pupil tier, you get access to additional live streams. Same thing with the student tier, and then you also notice that it has access to something called live chats. All live chats is, it took me a day to figure this out too. All live chat is like during the live stream, I can set the live stream to members only mode. So therefore only members would be able to chat. I'm not going to do this too often. I'll do it if we end up getting like a lot of, like say it's winter time and we usually get a lot more people to attend then, and I'm just getting flooded with questions. Then I'll probably turn it on to members only mode and only take questions from members. So that's what that means. You get access to additional live streams, and then the master tier subscribers get additional access to that Discord I talked about. So that's the best way, an easiest way I can explain it. It's a great way to just get a little bit extra content and also help our community as well, because you know the money I make through this I put into new videos, and I've always put effort into making the channel better and better, and that's a priority of mine this year. And getting those those memberships is important to that goal. So you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping the channel and the community as well. And I want to take a minute actually too. One thing you get is shout outs. I just want to give a blanket shout out right now, not to embarrass anybody, of anybody who is a member right now. You can see them in the chat because they have a special loyalty badge. Like Jeremy joined just today. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for that student tier membership. And yeah, thanks everybody. I really appreciate it. It's totally optional. If you're like, you know what, Tim, I just don't have the funds right now, or like, I'm just not interested in that. Don't click the like button twice. That is not what you intended. But anyway, it's just like an extra thing. Either take advantage of it or don't. You're still going to get access to the same stuff in terms of content. You just get more content. So like I said, we have a live stream tomorrow for members only. There's probably only going to be like 5 or 6 of you there, maybe even less, depending if you can make it or not. And in this particular live stream, I'm going to let you ask me any question about playing piano that you'll want, and we'll spend half an hour going over the questions that you guys have, and it'll be a cool little get together. That's the cool thing about the member streams. It's going to be a smaller group, more individualized attention. I'm going to open it up for questions more, and it's going to be a slightly elevated experience. So just letting you guys know about that. Again, totally optional. You don't have to do anything. I always recommend students and people to take care of themselves first. So don't give me any money if you're struggling on your bills or something. You know, take care of you first. So I want to let you guys know about that. The course is over on Piano Lessons on the Web. I'm going to start streaming over on Twitch soon. It's a different channel. It's called Stay Goody. I don't know if Jeremy could find me a link to that real quick. But what we're going to be doing over there very soon, sometime in the month of June, probably not next week, probably the week after. But anyway, during the month of June, starting in the month of June, excuse me, and we're going to continue throughout, we will be having a gaming night over on the Twitch channel where we're going to play games together. You're probably mostly going to be watching me play games, but if I can figure out a way for us all to play games together as a community, we'll do that as well. Maybe we'll play Monopoly or something weird. But at least you're going to be watching me play games. We're going to hang out together just as like a cool additional thing that's a little bit different. You know, we change things up a little bit. So I want to let you guys know about that. So Sam, thank you so much, Sam, for that link to the Twitch. So make sure you join it. We will start streaming here in a couple weeks. Every Wednesday, I think, from like 3 maybe to 6, I think sounds pretty good. They'll let me get some dinner in there, and that's like a 3-hour. That's pretty good to start out with. But anyway, guys, do you have any questions before we go? This is a pretty nice lesson. Thank you very much. Nice. Thanks, Tim. You should only like a video an odd number of times. Yeah, Sam beat you up to it. That's not too bad though, right? All right, I guess if I don't have any questions, I just want to thank you all for coming today. It was a really a pleasure. I know a lot less people attend the live streams this time of year, but I appreciate you guys coming. And yeah, we'll have some content all throughout the summer. We're going to hit it strong here in the fall once people start really coming back to work in reality. I'm hoping that this effect that the pandemic has on the channel will soon let up. One thing I noticed, I'll just talk here for a second on like what's going on. So my back catalog of videos is performing like very poorly compared to before. And one of the big reasons is that not as many people, and I can check this on Google Trends and things like that, not as many people are searching for piano lessons right now. And it's been down ever since that spike when we first had the pandemic. Everything was locking down. And then everybody, I think, went online and they were like, oh, I'm going to learn piano or how to draw or whatever. And then things were like super amazing. There was like this huge torrent up. I was getting tons of subscribers, tons of views and stuff. And then now I think it's the opposite effect where people are like kind of burned out on being inside a lot and burned out on like learning and being stuck. So I think there's like this adjustment period going on. I don't know how long it's going to go. We're still doing fine financially and things like that, but it is definitely a different thing than it used to be. It's such a whiplash because things were like crazy amazing in 2020, and now it's just like flatlining. Actually, views are going down with my collection of videos that I have, which is really odd. So I don't know. I'm going to be talking, I think, to some professional, Daryl Eves, I'll just give you his name, about it soon to like really figure out what's going on. But I think that's what's going on, and we'll figure it out though. We're doing good though. I feel like our community is strong, and that's really mostly what matters. Welcome everybody. Hello from Kenya. Unfortunately, we're going to get going here in a second, so you kind of caught us at the end. Like I said, we have a live stream tomorrow for members only, and then we have a live stream for everybody again, which will be the Piano Practice Club. That will be on Thursday. So thanks everybody for coming today. It's been your piano teacher, Tim, here. Doesn't look like there are any other questions. Follow me on Twitch if you're into that sort of thing. And if not, or if, I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Thank you so much. Got some burps. Thank you so much. Oh, let's get you a Discord link. Anybody have it offhand real quick? I think I do, actually. Hold on. Invite people. Here you go. I think I didn't mess it up. It is only a 7-day link though, so join now. I'm just kidding. Anyway, guys, yeah, join our Discord to join our community, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much to our moderators for taking the time to moderate. It didn't look like you guys had too much to do today in terms of moderation, which is good. And thank you to our members and people who support me over on the website. Thank you. Actually, through this time where views aren't that great, thank you. You're really pulling us through. I got to say that. But thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time.